In the heart of Buxton stands a building with a history stretching back more than 4 centuries. The Old Hall Hotel. Parts of this historic building date to the 16th century, but its most famous visitor wasn't simply another wealthy guest. She was a prisoner. Mary, Queen of Scots, stayed here while being held under the custody of the Earl of Shrewsbury. She walked these halls, slept within these walls, and visited Buxton repeatedly before leaving for the final time in 1584. 3 years later, Mary was executed. But according to the legends surrounding the Old Hall, the captive queen may have eventually found her way back. After fleeing Scotland in 1568, Mary, Queen of Scots, entered England seeking help from her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. Instead, she became a prisoner. Mary spent years under the supervision of George Talbot, the 6th Earl of Shrewsbury, moving between different estates. Between 1573 and 1584, she was allowed to visit Buxton several times. The town's natural thermal waters were believed to help with her health, and during these visits, Mary stayed in the building that preceded and forms part of today's Old Hall. Imagine the scene. A Scottish queen surrounded by guards, allowed to take Buxton's waters but unable simply to walk away. And every time she looked beyond those walls, England remained her prison. In 1584, Mary visited Buxton for what would become the final time. A famous tradition claims that before leaving, she scratched a farewell message onto a window pane. The inscription attributed to Mary expressed her sadness at leaving Buxton and suggested that she knew she might never see the town again. Whether the surviving story happened exactly as later generations described it is uncertain, but one thing isn't: Mary never returned. Her imprisonment continued until she was accused of involvement in the Babington Plot, a conspiracy against Queen Elizabeth I. In February 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed at Fotheringhay Castle. She was beheaded at the age of 44, but centuries later, some believe her connection to Buxton didn't end with her death. The documented story of Mary staying at Buxton is extraordinary enough, but surrounding the Old Hall are also stories of something much harder to explain. Over the years, paranormal accounts and local legends have associated the historic hotel with unexplained activity, and inevitably, one name dominates those stories: Mary, Queen of Scots. Some paranormal traditions suggest that the presence of the imprisoned queen somehow remains connected to the building, but unlike Mary's documented visits, there is no historical evidence proving that her spirit walks the Old Hall. Perhaps that's what makes the story so intriguing. Mary spent years unable to choose where she lived, unable to return to her throne, and eventually unable to escape the executioner's blade. If somewhere could hold an emotional imprint of her imprisonment, would it be here? Mary's story is only one chapter in the extraordinary life of the Old Hall. The building was altered and rebuilt repeatedly after the Tudor period, including major work during the 17th and 18th centuries. By the early 1700s, it was operating as a hotel. Even Daniel Defoe, the author of Robinson Crusoe, stayed here during his travels through Britain. Think about how many people have passed through these rooms since Mary's final visit. Guests arriving and disappearing. Generations of staff walking the same corridors. Hundreds of years of conversations, arguments, celebrations and deaths unfolding around the building. Today people can still stay here, but when night falls and those historic corridors become quiet, you're sleeping in a place where history isn't hidden behind museum glass. You're sleeping inside it. More than 4 centuries of history, a building connected to one of the most famous queens in British history. Years of imprisonment, political intrigue, and a final farewell before an execution that would echo through history. And then there are the legends. The possibility that Mary, Queen of Scots, never completely left the Old Hall behind. There may be no proof that Mary's ghost walks these corridors, but perhaps that's what makes staying here so fascinating. Because when the lights go out, you're not sleeping inside a recreation. You're sleeping within walls connected to the real story of an imprisoned queen. But what about you? If you were offered Mary's old room for one night, would you sleep there alone? Tell me in the comments, and follow Nightmare Harbinger as we uncover more haunted locations, terrifying legends, and the dark history hiding behind them.